come from New Island Province, Bougainville in the Western Solomons. In 2013, I attended the WorldChanger Youth Congress in Brisbane, and I encountered God there, and He gave me an amazing journey since then. So the story I'd like to share with you is the story of my WorldChanger's journey. I grew up in an Seventh-day Adventist home. My parents were faithful members of the church. Mom is a nurse and Dad is a doctor. It was my mom who registered me to attend this congress. When she came back from the leadership training, the Move with the Power 3 training in Brisbane, she encouraged me. She said that she would register me and I must work hard to save up to meet the costs. So for the next year, 2012, I, along with a few members of our local church youth group, we started fundraising and worked as hard as we can to get enough money to meet the expenses. And I had never worked hard for something like that in my life. And now looking back, I see how it was part of God's plan and He provided. So little did I know that me going to this congress, it would set me on a whole new course, one that I have never dreamt of pursuing. So we arrived at congress. It was all that we imagined, but much more. First, meeting other young people from the Pacific. That was new, that was exciting. And then meeting up again with friends and families from PNG whom we have not seen for quite a while. And then as for myself, meeting again friends who I've met from past camperies, and it was a fun time. Apart from that, the spiritual programs that we attended, the day sessions, the evening worship time, praise and worship, even little things like the prayer rooms that were always available for us to go. These little things, why I'm sharing this, the whole congress experience, it left its mark in my life at that point, and it gave me something to hold on to and to prepare me for when I was going to come back. I returned to my country after Congress. But the most important thing that happened to me at Congress was sensing the call of Jesus to be His disciple. It became so real to me then, to be a disciple maker and to be a world changer, the theme of the Congress. And the highlight of the program was receiving our WorldChanger's Bible with Bible study guides and our WorldChanger's license. And then we were commissioned and sent out to be world changers. That was a very special moment in my life. I felt like I was chosen. I felt like there was something more than just being a young leader in Pathfinders or secretary or assistant to a Sabbath school teacher. I felt called. When we returned to PNG, I had one of the most devastating news ever. I had not been accepted to the university that I applied to. I felt like I was a failure, or I am a failure. You see, I came from a home where education was always emphasized. No school, no future, end of story. Education was like the key to having a future. And my parents had dreams for me, especially my dad. He wanted me to follow in his footsteps and to become a doctor. Just before Congress, I noticed that my marks at school were dropping and chances of entry into a university would be quite narrow. I knew that my decisions as a teenager back then, I knew that my decisions and choices and the lifestyle that I lived then, those were to blame. I baptized at the age of 14. Though I got baptized at the age of 14, I was still in high school and was easily influenced by my peers. Alcohol and drugs were easy to avoid, but I couldn't avoid my friends. And so I started to make bad decisions, bad choices. And one thing about me, I wanted to fit in. I wanted to have the sense of belonging. So I started to do all the things that young people do today. I started listening to secular music, and it got its hold on me. My usual activities were socializing, staying out late, Facebooking. These were my normal activities. Yes, I still attended church and I had responsibilities, but at school I was swept by the crowd. In high school I also started dating, and as most high school relationships go, I had my first experience of how it felt to have your heart broken. And even though now looking back it seems childish, at that time what I felt was real, and there were times that I even thought thoughts of suiciding and just ending my life. I would resort to self-harm. I felt that if I did not belong, and if I was not accepted, and if friends kept on hurting me, if I hurt myself, that would ease the pain. And those were the things that was a result of the choices that I made. I could say I became a rebellious teenager at that time. I would run away from home if home was not a happy place, and the other things that young people do today. So I was a different person at church, and I was a different person at school and at home. Well, my marks at school dropped, and my relationships failed, and I became distant with God. And now in my misery and disappointment, I almost forgot all about the WorldChangers Congress that I had just attended. I felt broken, and I felt like my future was very dark. A week after we returned from Congress, I was sitting in church one Sabbath morning. During the divine service, our senior elder was preaching up in front, and as I sat there listening to his sermon, a thought crossed my mind. I think I can preach a sermon on that pulpit, and I actually envisioned myself standing up there preaching. And the interesting thing was that right after service, as I was walking out of church, one of my friends approached me and said to me, she said, they've given the divine service program for us in 2 weeks' time, and the group has decided, the group that we attended Congress together, they've decided that I would be the one to take the divine service. I was speechless at that moment. It felt just beyond me. It felt divine. And so for the next 2 weeks, I started to prepare. I decided to base my sermon on Jesus' call to his first disciples. And as I started to prepare for those 2 weeks, something happened. I felt that Jesus' invitation to his disciples was a personal call for myself. He was calling me to be a disciple, to be his disciple. So in my reading, I came across one of Ellen G. White's writings in Messages to Young People. It read something like, will not our young men respond to the invitation of Christ and answer, here am I, send me? Young men, press to the front and identify yourselves as laborers together with Christ, taking up the work where he left it to carry it on to its completion. On the Friday before the Sabbath I was going to preach, I turned 18 years old. And that night, I knelt down on my bedroom floor and I surrendered my life fully to God. And I prayed and I said to God, I had failed in trying to live my life. I had made choices that have led me away from you. And now, God, you take over and you live my life for me. As a young person, I tried looking for a sense of belonging, to be accepted, trying to find love for myself. And I did not find it where I was looking for. But that night, as I was kneeling there, surrendering my life, I felt God's forgiveness. I felt that He accepted me. And at that moment, I wanted nothing more than to be His servant and to serve Him. We had our own local WorldChangers Bible launch in Leh, where I lived. And from there, I discovered a passion for Bible studying. And I also developed a passion building friendships, and that had been my drive in leading other people to experiencing the love of Jesus. Throughout the year 2013, I sensed the calling become stronger and stronger, and by the middle of the year, I sent in my applications to take up ministry in Sonoma Adventist College. Over the years, I was blessed to see my sister, my best friend, and a friend from college give their lives to Jesus. After graduating with a diploma in pastoral ministry, I continued on to get a bachelor's in theology in the Pacific Adventist University. And today I am the associate pastor, or minister as I prefer, of Koki Adventist Church. Koki Adventist Church is also home to one of the largest youth groups in our conference, and I believe in our PNG Union mission as well. I still pray for my other friends written in my WorldChangers Bible, and I look forward to the day that they make the decision of accepting Jesus and become WorldChangers themselves in their own spheres of influence. I am a minister today, and I thank God for this journey that He has led me, and for enlarging my boundaries to where He sees fit to use me in His service. I believe there are other WorldChangers out there, and God is enlisting you too to step forward and to be counted. I extend this invitation. God is calling us to be an army of youth, young people. Will not our young men and women respond to the invitation of Christ and answer, "Here am I, send me"? There is a work that Jesus is personally calling every young people out there to do. May God bless you as you make that decision for yourself. That is the story of my WorldChangers journey, and thank you so much for listening.